Hello and welcome to the Say Yes Movement podcast with Heather and wait a minute. There's no Heather. It's John and Kunjan today, where we help you with your personal and professional growth, helping you say yes to all the scary stuff. Hey Kunjan, how are you today?
Hey, good morning, John. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I've said it so many times, Heather and John, Heather and John. It's kind of like burned into my brain. I'm like, what's going on? There's no
Yes,
Heather today.
subconscious.
Yeah. You might be wondering, where is Heather today? And Heather is somewhere close to Mongolia or on her way to Mongolia or in Japan somewhere.
Oh,
I'm not
wow.
exactly sure, but I know she's like not here. She's on the
On
other
her
side of the world
adventure.
somewhere. Yeah, on a big adventure. And I'm looking forward to hearing all her updates when she gets back. But today we've got a special guest in Gunjan. Gunjan has been a guest on our show before. And Gunjan, I'm so happy to have you here. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, John, for having me here.
Yeah.
It's
So
an honor.
for those of you that don't know, Gunjan and I, we knew each other from before, but we officially met last year. And last year we had the opportunity to spend, I think it was 5 days, 6 days together in Florida, where we went to a Tony Robbins UPW event, Unleash the Power Within event, and we got to be roommates for a week. So we really got to know each other, and I'm so happy that we did, because with this, it's created. We talk about things that happen that you don't even know are going to happen, that just need to happen because that's just the way the world is kind of designing it for you. And we had the opportunity to attend the event together. We did videos every day for 5 days as part of that event as well. And we got to share our insights with the world. So, Gunjan, thank you. And, we've continued to be friends over this past year, just kind of cheering each other on with the goals that we've set for each other in terms of what came out of that event. And, now it's almost a year, right? Like, I think you mentioned it to me just this week. It's like, John, it's been a year almost that we've come back, right? So it's kind of crazy how that all happens, right?
That is very true, John. And I love the way you told that we knew each other for a while, but we
Mm.
officially met, yes, like last year during Tony Robbins, right? So that was our first like good close meeting, and then knowing each other at a very deep level, staying there for 5 days together, attending the event. But John, do you know how we actually met? Probably you don't remember. But
I,
John, you inspired me to join Toastmasters. This might be somewhere in 2016, around that time. And John, you were a guest speaker there at Toastmasters, where I was attending, a shy guy sitting in a corner, looking at these inspiring speakers who were speaking there. And John Rivera was one of them. And he shared a wonderful story, which was so inspirational. And I got hooked up to that story and said, oh, this is the kind of speaker I would like to be one day. And John, you inspired me that day in 2016 to join Toastmasters, and taking that leap and joining Toastmasters has done wonderful things in my life and has turned my life like 360 degrees in a good way. And
Mhm.
things have been rolling since then. And I took a big leap in 2017 to quit my job. So all that thing followed, and now there's no stopping. I keep doing these things which scare me. Like yesterday, John messaged me, "You are a guest at my show." And I had
Yeah.
to say yes because it was a say yes moment. And I'm here today. So that's something that scared me. I had, and this is all because of one small little thing that started at Toastmasters. And you get into that habit of doing things that scares you for your good and for your growth. And
Yeah.
for that.
No, I love it. Listen, I don't, man, I'm feeling goosebumps. Yeah, when I was, and I remember that talk, and our good friend Van was also there. He was also, I was so intimidated going up on stage after Van, right? Like, if you don't know Van Vera, an incredibly funny person when he's on stage. Like, it's almost like a stand up, but it's like a speech with the stand. Like, he's just so funny. He makes the audience just burst out in laughter. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm going up after Van. I'm going up after Van. Like, that fear, that kicked in. I remember that day, but I think we met really briefly and we got to know each other. But Yeah, I know. We've come a long way, my friend. We've come a long
That
way
is
since
very true.
2016. So today is Friday. And good morning, Roger. Today is Friday. Today is Celebration Friday. So, Gunjan, what are you celebrating this week?
So one of the things that I'm celebrating is being a guest on your show. That is a big celebration for me. I was at your event, your 100 past podcast and celebration, and you had a wonderful event put up in downtown, wherein you invited some inspirational speakers that really inspired me in different ways. So I'm celebrating that, being there at your event and now being on your podcast. Uh, and and this is kind of my second time on your podcast, but this is an honor to be here, John. And I'm really celebrating this, just not for myself being here, but also the way you inspire thousands of people through this
Yeah.
podcast and giving out the light, uh, like a ray of hope for a lot of people, and inspiration. So you and Heather are doing a great job, and I'm celebrating being here on your show today.
Oh, thanks, Gunjan. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Wow. Again, this today feels like a big goosebump moment. I'm just,
Happy
woo.
birthday, Roger. Roger is saying his 51st birthday today.
No way. You know what? I don't believe that, Roger. I think it's more like you're 25 plus 26 years of experience. That's what I'm sticking with. Congratulations and happy birthday, my man. I'm so happy that I got to partially celebrate it with you this week because I got to see you this week. And listen, the one thing I love, Roger has this crazy presence, right? Like he walks in the room, he gives you a big hug, and it's like, wow. So thank you and happy birthday. And hey, Gurpreet, good morning. And I see somebody else there that's on LinkedIn. I can't see who they are, but good morning to you as well. Listen, it's yeah, today's a goosebump moment. Yeah, so if you are celebrating something as well, drop it in the comments. Let us know what that thing is for you. And Gunjan, just kind of building off what you talked about. Yeah, I'm celebrating the fact that I took an idea this week and I put it into action and we created something, right? And Heather and I, we tie like even this show, right? Like this show is something that kind of came up by, I'm not going to say by accident, but it came up by, I don't know if it's divine intervention or whatever that is. Something brought us together. And, the relationships that I started with Heather 6 years ago, I never thought would lead to this, right? Like you never know where your relationships are going to lead you, right? So this is why it's so important to surround yourself with good people. One of the things and one of the lessons I took from Sultan Akif is, your circle doesn't need to be 1,000 people. You only need 50 good people in your life, right? And if you have a circle of 50 solid people, you have an incredibly enriching life.
Yeah.
And
And you become like one of the five people. If you surround by five strong people, you become like them, right? So you surround
yeah,
with five good people,
you
that
become the sixth,
you
right?
become the
Like
sixth. Yeah.
so celebrating the fact that we got to put this event together, yes, we kind of organized it, we facilitated, we curated it. I love that word, curated an event. But we had an opportunity to bring like just some really special people together, not in just the speakers with Tara, Crystal, Alan, and Christina, but just with the audience too, right? Like just to have everybody there. Um, just to have everybody in the room together. And like I saw, it was amazing because I got to stand back and I got to observe what was happening. And you got to see connections being made. You got to see magic in conversation. And
Nice.
that to me was just, and what I did, if I saw somebody standing by themselves, I would pull them and I'm like, hey, you got to meet this person. You got to talk with them. I even did that with you. I'm like, hey,
Yes.
David, Gurjan, you got to talk to Steven. Steven, you guys need to connect. You need to
That is
talk
correct.
because because you never know, right? Like you never know when you're open to it, when you say yes to connection, when you say yes to just being open and having conversation, incredible things happen. So yeah, I'm celebrating the launch. And this isn't, we'll call it the launch, and we call it the series on purpose because it's going to be more than one. But the launch of the Say Yes Movement speaker series, where people get to share their Say Yes story, and I love it. So yeah, no, it's like what a week, and the other part, which is kind of organizing it, putting it together. It was just so cool. It was so great. It was so awesome. But what I want to know from you, Gunjan, it's been a year since we've been together at that event, and What's been that one thing that's really shifted for you? Because I know when we sat down and we wrote down our goals, and I still remember our morning conversations before we went to, we went to the event, we would sit down, we would talk. What's been that one thing that's really shifted for you over that last year?
Well, John, there are a lot of things, but if I had to pick one, as you know, it changed our lives forever. And it was not my first Tony Robbins event, UPWA. It was my second time doing it.
Mm.
And somebody would ask and question me, why do we do the same event again and again, right? That is a common question that you could get asked. And how I see it is the speaker is the same, the content mostly is the same, but every time you go to an event, you are at a different frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So I would give an analogy of a radio broadcast station. You're giving thousands of radio channels are being broadcasted at the same time. You can tune in to 99.9 and you listen to 99.9. The next time you go, maybe you are at 105.4, right? So you don't know where you are, and we grow as a human being. You are not the same John that you were last year. I'm not the same Gunjan that I was last year.
True.
So I build on my experiences, and when I go next time, I'm going with a different perspective and different experience in life. So again, coming back to your question, what shifted is I started doing journaling after coming back,
Mm.
and this journaling has has an immense power in it. A lot of people talk about journaling, and I was inspired by Jim Rohn on how to journal, because before I was journaling, but when I used to journal, I was just putting down my daily things that I did. It's not that powerful, but if you or anybody on this podcast listening to it wants to really journal powerfully, look up Jim Rohn on how to journal. And he has some wonderful insights. I implemented that. Not only me, my daughter is 14 years old. She started journaling.
Wow.
You can
Okay,
see
you gotta tell us. You gotta give us a glimpse of what that is. What is because it's funny that you're talking about journaling. Diane and I we went away, and one of the things that we did as part of our trip is we journaled together
that.
in a
Mhm.
journal, right? Kind of talking about the trip and what was happening. But I want to know specifically, what are you what's the framework that you're using for your journaling?
I experiment, John, and this is one of the things that even Jim mentioned, that he experimented over his lifetime, different ways of journaling. What I do is I kept one journal for my business goals, wherein I get something of the business, I put in there. I have one journal that I use early in the morning when I wake up and I reflect. I sit down on a quiet place, close my eyes, and whatever reflection comes to my surfaces, the top of my mind, I write on that. Like it could be after attending an event, it could be after, like 2 days ago, my one of my uncles was one of my role models in life. He passed away at the age of
Mm,
88,
sorry.
just day before yesterday, right? So in the morning, I'm quiet yesterday, sitting down and reflecting on life, on how he has inspired me throughout his life, right? Like, and there's so many different ways he's inspired me. So putting that down, learning from people, learning from individuals, and learning from individuals who you don't know but you admire, like movie stars or sports stars and things like that. So your reflections is, so I have one section called reflections, wherein whatever I reflect on in the morning, I would write that down. Then what I would write down is some ideas that I come across in the day, whether it's in business or personal. Say, for example,
Mm.
when I sit down with kids in the evening, I have a framework like after dinner, before they go to bed in their rooms, they have to sit with us, me and my wife, for 30 minutes. Because you know how kids are these days. They are either on the device or they are in their rooms. So we have made this thing that you have to be with us 30 minutes after dinner, not doing anything, not your devices, not anything. And we have to sit and talk about the day.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
Right. so
Wow.
so these are some small little things that you implement. And so this is a framework. The idea came and I will write down this idea and then I will implement it. So I wrote down this
Mm.
idea at one point and then I implemented it. So things like that. So journal is just not logging history events, but it is something, it's your masterpiece. you're creating something out of it.
Wow. 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 So, wow. Okay. I don't know if anybody else is wowed, but I'm wowed right now. And here's why. And sorry, just one quick second. Gurpreet, it's awesome. I love it that you're celebrating you. Um, yeah. Just looking at the comments, you just need 5 people, your soul tribe. Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're always learning something new. Absolutely, Roger. So the one thing I'm taking away, and what's funny, Gunjan, this morning I woke up with this thought of a book, right? Like I need to write a book. And I had this crazy idea that I could actually do this book in the next 2 weeks, right? So you talk about, things that come up and then reflection and then implementation and then action, right? And I'm like, okay. So, I'm sitting with the thought I'm like, okay, can I really write a book in like 2 weeks, right? And as you're saying this, I'm like, okay, I feel like that universal nudge saying, okay, John, go get it done. Go get it done. So I just want to say thank you. Yeah, I'm going to write a book in 2 weeks. We'll see how that goes. I'll let you all know what happens. And I'm putting this out publicly to the world because I don't want to, there's a power, just like you do with your kids when you sit down and you talk about your day and you have that reflection moment. There's a power to taking an idea and sharing it with the world. It's part of the reason why we do Celebration Fridays, because it's to show you that there's good things that are happening for you all the time. Because the world's really good, especially the news, at telling you how bad things are, right? And I know I get your news updates, and Gunjan, I love your Friday updates that you post out to your community on your WhatsApp.
You know what? Today my Friday update is not going to be the joke. It's going to be a share of this podcast.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you put things publicly out into the world, right? Like what we did last year with, our everyday, like when we were putting out our messages in terms of what we were learning, it's also taking and implementing, right? And I love that journaling approach to just having, separating out your journal for professional and for personal, because I think there is 2 aspects of our lives when it comes to that, right? Like we can integrate the 2 and we can live in harmony with both, but there's different things that come up for each, right? So like the idea of having that 30 minutes with your family, I love it. Like I try to do that with my kids too. And what one of the things that we try to do on Fridays is like, what are you celebrating this week? Like I do that at the dinner table too, right? Mm-hmm. Or what are you grateful for? Like if you don't want to talk about celebrations, what are you grateful for? And it's interesting what shows up in conversation. So yeah, it's wow, great approach to journaling, and a great approach to just taking and implementing and taking action, right? So were you always like this, Gunjan? Were you always the person that took action?
No, I wasn't, John. And it's still in the process, right? There's still slack at points where I think we need improvement. I need improvement. It's a process, right? And every day and we change as we listen to things, we learn new things, we implement new things. And it's a big shift, as I mentioned, like 2016, when I came to Toastmasters, I was a shy guy who's in a corner sitting and listening to these inspirational speakers. And this year I spoke at one of the biggest event on inspirational speaking, and the theme was against all odds. And I shared my story in front of around 300 odd people. And it was also live streamed. So it was a big thing for me. Like I was not a public speaker before, and I still probably am not.
No, you are, my friend. Listen, you spoke publicly. You're a public speaker. That's it's funny because Roger and I, we had this conversation. We were talking to somebody else. They're like, I'm not a public speaker. I'm like, yeah, you spoke publicly. You're a public speaker. There you go. As soon as you get up and you speak in front of people, you are a speaker. And listen, I was there for that. I got to be a part of that moment, and just to kind of see you go through that journey.
Thank you for being there, John.
Yeah, listen, it's support, right? We all need support. We all need a little bit of help. We need community to kind of help drive us forward, right? But listen, when I got there and I'm like, wow, right? When I heard your story, how you shared your journey of coming to Canada and then what that was like for you, I was like, wow, right? Like, I can't imagine the guy sitting in the corner in 2016 being up in front of, it wasn't just 300, there was also streaming live, right?
Yes.
So it was streaming live around the world. So like it was more than 300 people, right? And you got to share your message with the world. You shared a little bit of inspiration with the world. It was such a beautiful thing, Gunjan. And that, and I know that was one of the goals that you set for yourself last year, and I'm so happy that you got to do that.
That is correct. Yeah, we
Yeah.
said it together when we were at Tony Robbins. Yeah, all the big goals.
So, unfortunately, can you believe this? Like, we're already at time. We're already 20 minutes. I feel like I'm going to have to bring you back. I'm going to have to bring you back so we can continue more of the story and really sharing more of your journey in terms of what's happened to you over the last year. But I can't believe we're already at the end of the podcast. So here's the takeaway. I know Heather usually does this part, but your action for today is really to take a moment and to journal and journal in the way that Gunjan talked about, right? Putting that reflection section in, looking at, your personal, your business, and then taking something and implementing it, right? Like if there's a thought that kind of floats into your head, write it down, right? And journal in from that space and from that perspective. And actually, Gunjan, you've inspired me today. I'm so glad you're here because I don't know, the universe kind of sends you the messages that you need to hear, and you sent me a really strong message today. So thank you for that, my friend. And thank you for being a guest on this podcast again, sharing your message with the world. Listen, it's terrific, my friend. Wow.
No, thank you, John, for having me. It's an honor to be on your show. And once again, thank you. And it's a wonderful community. I am very, very inspired every day listening to you guys. And it solves one of my consistency themes for the year. And thank you very much for doing this. I acknowledge you for being consistent on this and doing this.
Thanks. Yes, we're going to have a whole episode where we talk about just consistency and some of the tools that we use to be consistent. All right, so that is it for this episode of the Say Yes Movement podcast. Just remember, when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. Wishing everyone a fantastic weekend. Talk to y'all later. Take care.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.